Fáilte. You're very welcome. I'm Lora O'Brien and this is Living Irish Witchcraft. I've been walking this path for more than 30 years now, and in that time I've learned that most folk have no real idea what Irish witchcraft actually is. They're usually carrying a bundle of Hollywood shite, some neo-pagan mishmash, a sprinkle of Celtic aesthetic, but a genuine hunger underneath it all. A hunger for something steady, something that feels like home, something that's lived rather than performed. So let's start as we mean to go on. No tourist crap, no Celtic nonsense, just the lived tradition, the way it exists on the ground here in Ireland, shaped by land, by language, by history, and by relationships. Now, I will put in a little disclaimer here that this is my version of Irish witchcraft. Obviously, I can only speak for myself. But I think you will find that if you take two Irish witches who are working a craft that is shaped by land, by language, by history and the ancestors, and by relationships, we're going to be at least cousin territory, similar enough. And because place matters, it's probably good to say where I'm speaking from right now. I am coming to you from an urban corner of County Waterford, right down the bottom of the island of Ireland, with 4 cats who run my life, the Neetobeans clan, and my partner John, who is pretty steady, keeps me more or less pointed in the right direction. The sea is close. The Comera Mountains are close. There are woods that I can walk in when my head or my heart needs a bit of sense talked into it. And all of that is part of my practice. None of it is abstract. A lot of people imagine witches out in lonely fields or forests, cloaked up, calling down power, and yeah, sometimes the land will catch you in a moment like that. But the truth is that most witchcraft, at least in Ireland, happens in the ordinary, in your kitchen, on your doorstep, walking to the river or going to the shops, whispering to yourself at the bin because something shifted and you were paying attention and you caught it. The magic is woven through the living and always has been. Now, the question I get more than probably any other is, what makes it Irish? Like, what makes Irish witchcraft different from any other kind of witchcraft? And the answer is simple enough, though it's not always easy for people to hear. A lot of people will reject because they prefer to project. But it's Irish because it grows from here. This is the roots and the seeds of it. It's from this land, this culture, this long, messy history, this particular worldview here on the island. Because witchcraft is relational. You can't separate it from the place and the people that shaped it. Now, that doesn't mean that you need an Irish passport or a grandparent from Cork or some DNA test that told you that you're 12% Celtic, because that's not how relationship actually works. Belonging isn't genetic, it's behavioural. It's how you show up, it's how you listen, it's the respect that you bring, the accountability that you accept, and the willingness to learn the real thing instead of look for the shiny, packaged, tied in a bow thing. Irish witchcraft is rooted in sovereignty, not the goddess costume fairy lights version, but the actual lived stuff. Your choices, your boundaries, the way you hold and carry yourself in the world. And sovereignty isn't something that you claim. It's not a title. It is something that you practice. It's rooted in right relationship with people, with spirits, with ancestors, with the land under your feet, And that's whether you're standing at the edge of a bog or the edge of a housing estate. Irish witchcraft is rooted in will, in the quiet focus that comes from showing up every day, even when you're tired, even when you're confused or overwhelmed, even when you're not feeling particularly magical, especially then actually. And it's rooted in thresholds, liminality, the spaces in between. Irish folk magic is full of thresholds, doorways, boundaries, gates, crossroads, the edge of the water, the moment before a thing becomes a different thing, the point of shifting of a whole year. That's where the old charms and counter charms happened, where the protection was set, where people watched for signs, where blessings and curses were spoken. And that's important to remember too, actually. Spoken. Irish magical practice is full of words. Quiet words, repeated words, words with intention threaded through them like a stitch. Folk cures, blessings, curses, protections were all carried by the breath. Nothing theatrical, nothing performative, unless, the witch wanted it that way. But normally it was just the right words at the right time with the right will and the right heart. So that's how I've always practiced, and that's what you can expect here on this podcast. You're going to get theory, sure. You're going to get history, definitely, because I have a master's in Irish history, so it is my special interest, one of my special interests. But mostly you're going to get lived practice, daily witchcraft, real life, you and me and the land, and whatever wisdom we can coax out of the spaces in between. And because this is living Irish witchcraft, I live it and I'd love you to live it. Every episode I will bring you a small working. A charm, a blessing, a tiny ritual that you can try yourself. Nothing big or dramatic, just something steady, rooted, ethical, practical, and in keeping with the actual traditions. So on that note, today we will start with a threshold blessing. This is definitely one of the most common forms of magic in Ireland, historically and in the present day. People blessed their doorways, their gates, their windows to protect the home and the folk inside it. They used spoken words, gestures, sometimes a hand laid on the wood or the stone. This version is simple. It draws on original Irish protective and boundary setting charms without copying them word for word. We don't imitate what belonged to communities who needed those charms for survival. We don't steal them for our own purposes. But we honour the structure instead. Intention, breadth, relationship and clarity. So here's the working. Stand at your doorway. Now this could be your front door or your back door of your house. It could be your door into your room or your bedroom. That is your own space. You could even do it on a bed frame to keep you safe at night. So think of where other people's space ends and yours begins. So we're calling that the doorway. Now you don't need incense or candles or anything else, just your presence. Rest your hand on the door frame. Feel the surface under your palm, whatever that is. Could be wood, metal, paint, stone. Take a slow breath and say in your own voice, don't be putting on any airs or graces or anything, but just say, what comes in supports my well-being. What leaves is released without harm. I stand here in my sovereignty. 3 simple lines. You have protection, release, and the core of Irish witchcraft right there at the end, the self, the choosing, the sacred centre. Then you breathe again, step back into your home, into your room, settle down in your bed, whatever it is. The act is done. Now you can repeat that as often as you like, daily if you need the steadiness, weekly if you want to mark a new rhythm, or just whenever the air feels a bit too full and you need to reclaim your space. And that's us for our first episode. Thanks for being here. There's plenty ahead of us, more stories, more teachings, and more lived Irish witchcraft. Steady and practical and rooted in right relationship. I'll talk to you next time. Slán go fóill.